Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Dwarves led by Hitman Hippo facing off against the Empire, who shall be helmed by Nerexa, aka Serka, here on the edge of the Darkwood, and it's going to be a lot of powder coming out of the Empire versus a flame cannon for the Dwarves. Very interesting. Maybe it's a bit of a forbidden tech against the long rifles or null and ironsides or something. We'll have to see. So looking at the Dowie army here, it is going to be Dwarf Warriors. So we have a handful of those bad boys, which have always been a staple against Empire. Empire hates dealing with armored infantry. Yes, greatswords can do well if they're not going to be shot or, punished by Dwarven ranged. But Dwarf Warriors, honestly, just very, very stalwart. They'll dominate state troopers and will require things like greatswords or greater to deal with them. On top of that, I think it's just going to be, just all basic Dwarf Warrior. Secondary is going to be some Giant Slayers. And obviously against Knights of the Black Rose, Empire Knights, some of those other threats, Giant Slayers will be quite nice. We have Malachi Makaisen. So this is pretty rad. I assume he has the range increase. Yeah, so Flame Cannons did get a range increase, right? So they are currently sitting at 264 with Malachi's buffs. It's not bad. I think Hawkland Long Rifles are like 240 or something like that. We'll have to check in a minute. But yeah, theoretically, much like a magma cannon, this thing should dominate, just crush lightly armored troopers and things like that. So very curious to see how this functions here. And also, on the backside, we have Hitman Hippo using his signature playstyle, which is using miners. Remember the grand final game with him, I think it was like a week ago. He's Norgumlinks and Doomseekers, and he loves to vanguard on people's home objectives and be like, get this armor off the point, I dare you. So he's got 2 blasting charges right there. And that's going to be it. Now, another player with a very unique playstyle is going to be Nerexa. So double Light Wizard with nets and a bunch of Null and Ironsides, which trade super well into enemy range units. I think it's obviously because of their 60 armor, but their melee prowess is also respectable. So if they do get caught by something, they can fight well. Their shooting power is great and a very, very solid unit. A couple greatswords mixed in makes sense. Armor piercing anti-infantry against dwarves. Greatswords were bad for a long time in Warhammer 2, but they did get some buffs in Warhammer 3, if I'm not mistaken, making them pretty good. And we do have the Erge Jaeger Corps as well as the Hawkland Rifles, which have the same range as the Flame Cannon. The Flame Cannon has, I think, 4 more range, so maybe it'll get a shot off first, but yeah, we'll have to see how that all unfolds here. And I think it was a Balthazar Gelton summon. Shame on you. There's so many cool lords for the Empires. Bring them. They're rad. But hopefully that'll be something that gets changed someday. I think Lord End summoning is super haggard. It's not like Power Grab, but it just kind of, it breaks immersion for me, for sure. Anyways, the battle is now on, and the Dwarf army is going to be moving up. We do see a second cannon being called in, so the double cannon makes sense against Empire. Cannons have always been good. And on the side here, we get a little bit of trolling out of the Dowie. So the miners with blasting charges retreating back into the trees. The Null and Ironsides have formed ranks and will be able to punish them pretty hard if they move out of the bushes. And we do see a nice firing line. These dwarves are going to be eating it like champs, as the Ironsides will be able to run away if need be. At 33 speed, they can definitely kite these dwarves at 28 speed. While on the subject of slow infantry, I think 28 speed is a good spot for slower, tankier infantry like Nurgle and Dwarves. I think Vampire Coast's Deckhand mob should be buffed from 23 to 28 speed. I think that would change the meta for them and would be not even that big of a game-breaking buff. Land Battle wouldn't even care about that, which is nice because, we want to make everyone happy. I think that would be something that's nice. But anyways, Ironside shooting into the trees and, keeping the Dwarves honest, but the Dwarves are maintaining capture weight. No, they're not. They moved off the objective. But we'll see how that ends up going. As far as this point goes, we do see the Flame Cannon in position and a lot of firepower coming out of the Hawkland Long Rifles. One of them does have Shield Breaker, the Erge Jaeger Corps. They have the Shield Breaker, so they're going to be very punishing, but this map does have a little pillar in the middle, which you can kind of hold onto if you want to. And the Imperial Artillery Corps and gun line is now moving up, so the Jaeger Corps with the Great Swords and the Light Wizard. So if the Dwarves do try and advance on them, there's going to be a lot of nets coming down, and this is a really fun playstyle with the double net play. It's hard to pull off. I played against Nerexa many games. We practiced together a bit, and they're really, really good at that style. It's very stressful to play. And here we do see the miners with blasting charges moving up, but they do get netted down, and now the Null and Ironside's going to be unleashing a hellish salvo into them. They don't have shields of any sort, and here we do see the Light Wizard engaging in combat. And he's still a heroic character, not amazing, but should be able to keep these blasting charges at bay. And I think the Null and Ironsides with proper micro should be able to avoid getting punished by those blasting charges. Now, as far as the middle point goes, the Sons of Sigmar are going to be grabbing this one. You see Great Swords and Swordsmen move up, and the Hawkland Long Rifles trying to push the Dwarves back, but the Cannons are returning the favor. And yeah, Cannons, even though they are designed to kill big targets, much like in Tabletop, they can still bowl over infantry. And here the Erge Jaeger Corps is being targeted by the Cannons, and these are no mere cannons. These are cannons that are buffed by Malachi Makaisen. So the range is better, their damage is better, and they also get better accuracy and reload skill. So that Dwarven artillery is no joke with Malachi's buffs. I think he's actually pretty decent in a couple of matchups. In the backfield, we do see the Dwarves getting pushed back, but these are 2 chaff units, and overall, the Dwarves are probably doing more relevant damage by punishing this expensive Hawkland Long Rifle unit. but they are being forced back, and the Empire is going to have the objective advantage. And now the flame cannons are going to be shooting, not something you get to see terribly often. And they do get into those greatswords, man. That was some respectable damage, much like a magma cannon. Basically, similar damage output. I still think magmas are better just because their range is like 380. But yeah, flame cannons, in theory, if you do get in their kill box, they should wreck you, like, really, really badly. So now they're going to be switching over, as we do see the Null and Ironsides moving up, and they're going to be unleashing a salvo. Oh god, this is going to be punishment. If those flame cannons shoot a shot while they're stacked on top of each other, which they might, ooh, that could be really bad. We're going to have to watch here. Cannon shots continuing to trade. We do see the Airgig Jaeger Corps getting punished pretty badly as the dreaded flame cannon continues in, and Net of Ammontok being used on the flame cannon? I don't know what's going on there. One of these wizards getting a little bit Last Samurai. You can smell the desperation here for Nerexa trying to shut this thing down, but the Giant Slayers are at the ready. And, I mean, a Light Wizard is on a horse, which is, I guess, a gigantic creature of sorts. But, man, look at the Flame Cannons taking down those Null and Ironsides. And now the Dowie Horde is going to be surging forward. In response, of course, the Empire is going to be trying to duke it out here. Huckle Long Rifle shooting into the miners with blasting charges. Definitely should switch onto that flame cannon if you can. Meanwhile, on this side, the Huckle Long Rifles getting a really, really good shooting box. So though things went very well for the Dwarves there, the Empire is right back in this game as the Sterling's Revenge, Huckle Long Rifles, as well as the Null and Ironsides are going to be unleashing just hellish firepower here into the miners. Massive casualties going down, but you know, the thing for the Dwarves is this is the classic Wimp Low face-to-foot style from Kung Pao. These are chaff units at their core. They're very cheap. They're like 300 gold, so it's not really a big deal. Meanwhile, a couple greatswords are trying to force path their way through. So the Empire player is basically spam clicking to try and give them orders, but they're just going to get tethered back in and struggle to get to that flame cannon, which honestly is doing super good. Pretty insane. 1,300 value so far. It's paid for itself, and with the support from Malachi, it's getting in there, man. It's getting in there. So Sterling's Revenge getting pounded here, and the Huckle Long Rifles, I think they should have made more of an effort to take down the flame cannons when they had the range. There was 2 of them in range, and they were shooting different things, but that flame cannon is going to continue to just wreck your troops if you don't have anything to deal with it. Does Empire have cannons? Doesn't look like it. It's going to be basic handgunners and Null and Ironsides on their way in, so a lot of armor-piercing powder with a lot of net play. And the objectives right now do favor the Empire, so the Empire does have the middle objective, but there's a ton of angry dwarves coming up. And these greatswords back here are going to be taken apart by the miners as well as the Long Drongs Slayer Pirates. The Long Dongs Slayer Pirates on their way in, baby. They do manage to push off the greatswords, which are now broken. And the flame cannon is going to be very much functional as it continues. It's like the Death Star in Star Wars. Your friends will find it is fully operational. Here comes Longbeards getting into the secondary. Fairly elite, certainly a target that you would want to focus fire down. But they do have Silver Shield, so right, they're going to be able to anchor in there okay. Hawk and Long Rifles, a lot of powder are going to be focus firing them down. But, you know, that's mitigating, essentially, I think 55% of the shots that are going to be coming in. Yeah, it's 55% of small arms firepower. So not going to do things like Ushopti Great Bows, Chosen to the Gods from Tomb Kings, for example. But against small arms fire, they will endure. But still not bad value here for the Empire. Looking at the value trading, it is favoring the Dwarves. Neither side have healing, so I think that's a relatively true advantage for the Dwarves. But it makes sense, right? The Dwarves had superior firepower, and they also had said firepower in range of the objective. And the double cannons were putting a lot of pressure on Serkia, where Serkia had to push up and try and deal with it. But the execution wasn't quite there. There was no Empire mobility to really get back there and punish. This is a build from the Dwarves. It doesn't seem to have much in the way of defensive Slayers. And, I guess it does have long-drawn Slayer Pirates, but yeah, maybe a little bit of mobility to try and get on those cannons. But that's easier said than done, right? Like, a good Dwarf player will typically screen their cannons and defend them with Slayers very, very well. So, understandably, it's a tricksy one. So, a couple Dwarves going to be heading towards objective number 3, and on the middle point, we do see the Dowie Legions securing control of this bad boy. Dwarf Warriors battling it out with the Swordsmen. But here's the paradigm of the situation. Now the Dwarves are the ones that are going to have to extend up to hold the objective, and there is a chance that this consolidated Empire focus fire via the handgunners, Null and Ironsides, and whatnot are going to be able to potentially shoot and get a lot of value against the Dwarves. Also, ammunition could start to run dry in the flame cannons and the regular cannons, so that could lead to a bit of a momentum shift. I mean, it's if they're unsummoned, you still get a partial refund, but yeah, they've done some great value this game. This cannon at friggin' 1,700. This one's sitting at 1,200. The flame cannon here in the back sitting at 2,250. The dreaded flame cannon meta is upon us. The Malachi, look how well Malachi is positioned. This is like how you can tell he really planned this out. Like, he has Malachi facing the other direction, and that's intentional because he's probably trying to save Malachi's ammunition. Or you could just take him on fire at will as well, I guess. But that would be the only reason I could see him facing the other way. Maybe to save it to make sure he has it for more valuable targets later on. Blasting charge is wrecking the Ironsides. They're having a horrible time as they get forced back by the old school Dowie firepower here. And up on the middle objective, it is being contested. The Empire does have a couple state troopers up there. And swordsmen will typically outtrade minor units. I believe they would win that fight. And we do see a lot of Empire concaving. I feel like I'm playing StarCraft, watching a bunch of Marines encircle like a zealot or something. But they do get that semicircle, and they're getting a lot of healthy firepower into the Dwarves as the swordsmen might be able to push them off. And this could be the dreaded comeback for the Empire, as all that artillery is about to run out of ammunition. And on the backside, is the Empire in danger of losing this objective? We do see a light wizard fighting right here, but some dwarves are moving forward, trying to head into the gun line. And the Dwarven artillery corps in the back is shortly going to run out of ammunition. Malachi, does he have a restock ability? I can't remember if he does. I haven't played him, but oh, he's actually shooting at something back here. Oh, he was shooting at the great swords that were trying to rally, and he does manage to pop them. So now Slayer's going to be heading up to the middle, but Serkia looks like they're creeping back in terms of the momentum. A lot of firepower here. I think having maybe one Empire engineer on foot. I think actually Empire foot engineers could be good in this matchup too, right? That wouldn't be terrible. Or you could just get a master engineer of the Empire on foot. He's got a grenade launcher, and you could restock your ammunition. So instead of unsummoning Gelt and just being a shame on Sigmar, you could bring in the foot master engineer with a grenade launcher just to clear out, and also restocking your Ironsides and your Hawk and Long rifles and all your different stuff like that, right? I think that's kind of a cool tactic. The Empire is definitely a good faction in the top 5. I think if you ban steam tanks and land ships, they become a very fair faction. Those things are kind of propping them up, but the Knights of the Black Rose, Null and Ironsides, you almost never see Elspeth being played either. I think Empire is a pretty damn fair, upper tier faction. As long as if we get a good balance change on the steam tank and or the less so the steam tank though. The steam tank definitely needs a little bit of an adjustment. With the upgrades it got, but more so the land ship. The land ship is what puts the Empire up to like oppressive tier if you're just allowing double land ships to be brought in some chaos matchups and things like that. Nonetheless, the Dowie are surging forward, Slayers are rushing up, and they are unbreakable, and the Empire's never liked dealing with Slayer rushes. And what do we got in the trees here? Is this some evil tech? It is going to be some blasting charge boys heading up to control the middle. Looking at the objective score, we do see Hitman Hippo taking the lead here at this point, and there is going to be some sort of witchcraft going down here. It is going to be a net of Amnitok as Greatswords will now be moving into fight. And where is their attack order? It is into the Slayers. Greatswords will dominate Slayers pretty hard, but cannons will hurt them reasonably well. And both these cannons are still shooting, 1600 here, and the other one is sitting at 1900, so they've certainly paid for themselves. Cannons do not cost over 1,000. I believe they're 800, if memory serves. I've been taking a bit of a break from the Empire, but I'll be back soon. I'll be playing them in some SFTs once we get Khorne out of the way. That was the next one that was voted. But yeah, Empire's scrapping really, really hard, and honestly, their powder is trading pretty well. We do see the Airgate Jaeger Corps being brought. Arguably, parking them in the trees is a good idea because they do have snipe and they wouldn't be vulnerable to cannons, but having them out there is fine. They're still going to be able to shoot. Handgunners getting cost-effective shots into the side of the Dwarves, so their shields aren't going to be battering too much. And here, these Slayers in an absolute pain in the butt. But like I said, Null and Ironsides are good fighters. 33-27 on the combat stat line. They're going to be able to trade okay into Slayer units, especially since they are relying on their bonus for Sergeant a little bit, but they still have 38 melee attack, so I suppose they're not relying too badly. Great Swords defeating these Slayers right here. Meanwhile, the Null and Ironsides and Handgunners valiantly defending, but the Dwarves coming for a sneaky here. All right, this is all it takes, man. If somebody's not paying attention, just like one haggard rallied unit gets up at that point, especially since it looks like Nerexa is literally not playing with any cavalry, which is perplexing. I think you got to bring at least like 2 Empire Knights just to keep your opponent honest, right? Having that mobility and that fast capture weight. And grenade launchers are also reasonably good against Dwarves, but cannons do punish them really badly, so I think that would probably be too risky. I wonder about like a single Pistolier unit, just to like kite Slayer units and things like that and give you quick capture weight. Yeah, something for another day. I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Probably not. But the middle point is controlled by the Empire. So it looks like the Empire did get its clutches on this point once again. The Great Swords and the Light Wizard, as well as the Ironsides and Handgunners, were able to secure that point from the Dowie. But the Dowie are going spec ops in the back bushes, man. We have this minor unit with like 2 capture weight, probably. Still just grabbing that point here. Collins are going to be Sterling's Revenge, as well as Swordsmen. And for the Dwarves, we do have a lot of Longbeards and more Longbeards. My goodness, that is a lot of durable capture weight that I don't know if the Empire is going to be able to chew through. Longbeards, Longbeard with shield will lose to a Greatsword, but they'll put up a good fight and they'll hold for a long time. Their stats are very good. They have almost 50 MD, right? It's at 48. So those bad boys usually don't hear the bell. Malachi McKayson is up on the point too. I don't think he brought his hand grenades, but he's sitting there with his badass Mohawk and will be unleashing shots into the Greatswords over here. The Handgunners, looks like he's obstructed though. Yeah, he's obstructed, so Powder needs a little bit more direct line of sight. And this is really unfortunate here for Nerexa. We get a couple Slayer units, and that's all it takes, right? Like 3 Slayers getting on the Hawk and Long Rifles, man. They're going to be able to fight. Unless the Hawk and Long Rifles turn and fight them, which is what they should do. they should be put in melee mode and pile in and finish off those Slayers. So more swordsmen on the way up. And we got a really, really close game in our hands. Meanwhile, in the backfield, the Miners with Blasting Charges do attempt to get back here, but Nerexa was able to screen them out with Sterling's Revenge and the Light Wizard, so this objective is owned by the forces of the Empire. And yeah, Empire's really hanging in this game. It's a really, really close one. Ultimately, though, I think the advantage does lie in the hands of the Dowie. This firepower is going to peter out a little bit, and when the second wave of Dwarves does arrive, we have the Long Dong Slayer Pirates coming up, as well as more Slayer Pirates. Slayer Pirates, a nice unit, and good, decent dual purpose against Empire Cavalry, too, because Empire Cavalry have really bad DPS. Outside, you know, on the lower end, Empire Knights, I should say. Knights of the Black Rose and Blazing Sun can do good damage, but you don't typically see Blazing Sun in this matchup. So these guys can shoot Empire big targets. So if there is something big, they can shoot them with really cost-effective armor-piercing shooting, and they have good enough stats to probably fight off Empire Knights and or dive into Empire Infantry on the objective. So looking at the points, we do see Nerexa passing Hitman Hippo here, just pure tenacity, but the Null and Ironside's going to break off. I really like how Null and Ironsides are like kind of like a unit you can put right in the nitty gritty of a battle, and they're good enough in melee to fight comparatively to like handgunners who are like 16, 17. Nice blasting charges by the Dwarves, and that's going to be a lot of capture weight. And I don't see the Empire having the stopping power to get the Dwarves off at this point. Yes, they have a lot of powder. It is potentially going to hurt, but we got swords moving up, some great swords. And the Empire does have a bit of a points lead, but the Dwarves can comfortably win on 2. And oh my god, the Dwarven trolling in the back. Look at this, guys. We got the 2 Miners. They're just, this is like the Dwarves in a nutshell. Just stubborn, persistent, and they remembered how they were wronged on this objective, and they moved back in there and are going to be causing a lot of havoc. The Airgate Jaeger Corps shooting away. They're sitting at only 400 value. That's brutal, and they've been summoned twice. So the Dwarves did a really good job with the double cannon flame cannon build. That flame cannon was the big deciding factor in the middle game. Early middle game, I should say. It really, really kept the Empire back, and now I think we're just going to see the Dwarves ninja this objective. I mean, the handgunners are so hard focused on getting the middle that the back point just going to be straight up stolen. So I think that's GG well played. It's just going to be a brutal grind here for a couple more minutes, but Longbeards are not a unit that's going to be going anywhere. And we do also have the Long Dong Slayers here, and they lower MD of nearby units by -10, which is pretty obscene. And you can see they're getting really good flank shooting into the greatswords, and they have armor-piercing pistols. Dude, I love how this guy's just straight up out of a biker bar. He's got like a leather vest on with like a skull. That's just like straight up biker culture. Yeah, it's pretty great. You gotta love it. I wish Dwarves had something cool like that. I guess you could probably kit bash some Dwarves in Old World if you wanted to. Wow, the middle point actually in flux here. You do see the Dwarves pulling ahead. I'm glad I didn't start fast-forwarding this. It looks like it could be a little bit of a contested game. I think these Longbeards did move off the objective, but oh my god, the Dwarfs with the ninja cap in the back, ladies and gentlemen. And now there's going to be another Dwarf Warrior coming up. I think, yeah, a bit of a blunder here by Hitman Hippo. He had a Dwarf Longbeard unit that wasn't on the objective. Now it is, but it could have slowed down the cap of the Empire. In the backfield, we do see Malachi McKyson going after the Airgate Jaeger Corps. Also a bit of a misplay. I think just keeping him on the objective with that other Longbeard unit would have prevented the Empire cap, potentially. Dwarves have a little bit of time, but that ninja back cap, dude, that is just, like, I think Nerexa might have actually won the game. With that being said, like, if that back objective had been held. So the Dwarven spec ops and just the grumpiness getting it done. Malachi moving off the point, though, again, I think a huge mistake. I think having Malachi on the objective would provide the capture weight, which is very valuable. And Malachi's fighting power would be better suited to just be used on, like, greatswords or something like that. Sure, he doesn't have the best AP in melee, but he still has 400 weapon strength. It would have been close, though. Dwarves look like they reclaimed this maybe quick enough. The Empire does get to the backfield objective, but there's no way, right? Like, this objective is still belonging to the Dwarves, and this is obviously a triple cap situation now. And the Dwarves are going to get their clutches on this point, blasting charges on the swordsmen, and the Dwarves seal it out. I think Dwarves still would have won if they had not captured that back objective. It would have just been razor close, but man, what a great game between those players. You know, it's just a testament to their skill, right? We see Nerexa getting pounded in the beginning value-wise, but finds a way to get back in the game. And that was cool. But yeah, I think the build needed a little bit of mobility. Like, I love this style. I think it's really cool. But like, a couple Empire Knights can make a big difference on securing your back objective. Although arguably those cannons, yeah, they're a terror, man. 23, 22. That flame, who would have thought a flame cannon would be like the MVP? I didn't think I'd be saying that this year. But, you know, hey, Malachi buffing it plus the range buff it got recently, maybe it's something to play with now. Anyways, GG well played. Hawklands did okay. The cannons really punished them, but the Null and Ironsides, yeah, they're cool. 1400 here, pretty good value here as well. And that's what you get for using an unsummoned Gelt. Shame on you. There's so many cool Empire Lords. Come on now, all jokes aside. Rex is an awesome person, awesome player as well. But GG well played. See you guys around, and that is it for tonight.